Hello everyone, on this video we will be looking into a ModuleFederation plugin from Webpack, and which is really popular these days to manage MicroFrontEnds. So by the end of this video you should have a clear idea of how ModuleFederation works and how you can start using them. So without further ado, let's get started. So on my left hand side, I will be putting the VS Code, and on my right, I will be showing you guys some of the links. So in this case, is I'm opening NPM and ModuleFederation docs. So the first thing, so what is ModuleFederation and when do we use it? So ModuleFederation comes with Webpack 5. So it's not a framework, it's just a plugin that comes from Webpack. So let's say the main uses of ModuleFederation is to manage different MicroFrontEnds at runtime, basically. So prior to ModuleFederation, a lot of the use cases were to deal with the versioning system. So what you would use to do is you would use something like npm linking and manage the MicroFrontEnds that way. The problem with that is you have to keep on publishing manually, and you have to change the version number where it is being consumed. But the whole idea of ModuleFederation is that let's say you have two isolated React apps. They run on their each port. Let's say one runs on 3005, the another runs on 3006. So let's say if you make a change to 3006 and deploy that code, as soon as you deploy it, you're gonna get the changes from that build, basically. This is the interface. ModuleFederation is an interface that talks between two separate Webpack builds, and we'll see it in a second. Like how we can like configure that one whenever we are creating our apps. So now you have basic idea of what's going on. What we'll be using on today's video to create a project is a package called create mf app. So this was created by Jack. He's a really like great guy actually on the front end community. So if you guys haven't checked out his YouTube videos, please, I would like really recommend that. He's a really cool guy. So we will be using the script. So it will like reduce bunch of boilerplate code. So that way we will have we can just focus on ModuleFederation, which is the topic of today's video. So now I will start creating our apps. Let's start by creating a couple of apps. So in order to use this package from npm, what you need to do is, open an empty directory, and on terminal do npx create mf app. So once you run this command, you should get some sort of prompt. Let's wait for that one. Okay, now it says pick the name for your app. So I will let's say I'm creating an application. Let's say this is the spa. By spa I'm a single page application. This is gonna get all of the resources from the other applications. So I'll just name it as spa. Alright, so it asks me for what is the project type. I can just do application, and I can specify what is the port number that I want to assign to this app. I will just say 3000, and I can select various languages, and I will do React in this case, and I have an option to select TypeScript or JavaScript, but I will go for JavaScript. And for CSS, no Tailwind, I will just use the regular CSS. Alright, just like that, our app is created. So it created a new directory with the name spa, and all of the stuff here are the basic, it's just a basic React app, and with the basic Webpack config. Now what we can do is, before we create another app, let me cd into that directory and run npm install, so that it installs all of the required dependencies from here. I'll run that one, and while waiting for that one, I'm going to create a new terminal, and here I'm going to create a second app. I'm going to run the same command again, mf-app. Alright, so that should start installing the like bringing the libraries. So now for this one, let's say Spa is gonna take like bunch of resources from other apps. Now I am on the let's say let's header. I'm on header team, so now I will do something like name of the app would be header dash UI. Let's pick that name. It's going to be application as well, and it's going to run on port 3001. It's going to be React project as well on JavaScript and CSS. So once I do that, I should be able to cd into that directory and run npm install. Alright, now our spa is done. Let's do npm run. You can like when you create, there are a bunch of scripts. Now what I like to do is I like to do npm run start live, so it like live, like it does the hot reload and everything. So I will run the spa, so it should open up app on localhost 3000. So this is going to consume, this app is going to consume all of the other apps. I'm going to do the same thing here. npm run start live. Alright, so it opens the new app, and now let's go over the spa and make some adjustment there. Let's get rid of all of the other things, just like that, and it's a hot reload. Now I will only see the spa there. Now let's go to header UI, go to source app.jsx. Now it says header dash. Let's get rid of this one as well. So now we just have a header on two different apps. Now what we can do now is now let's let's derive a logic. So we're gonna create a button where it will just increase the counter. You can share the resources, like various kind of resources, like including the Redux store and everything. You can share any type of files. But for this, in this case, we are just interested in sharing one of the component. So what I would do is I would go to header-ui and create a file called counter.jsx, and I'm going to use the snippet here to create a counter. Let's get rid of this, and I'm going to create a button. Oops, sorry, I don't know why I can't type today. Let's just do button add counter, and does it have git ignore file? Yes, it does. So let's do one thing. I'm gonna initialize git so that my formatter works properly, and run this server again. Let's go here and do git init. Now run the server again. Yeah, let's get rid of this tab so that it's not confusing. Now we have the same setup. I can simply close this one. Now for the add counter, the only thing that I want to do is I want to increase the counter, which is going to be a inline function. I'll just say set counter. It's going to do counter plus 1, and above that one I'm going to have a div, or let's do h1, and we're going to use a string templates and just simply say counter is, I'm just going to use the $sign to insert the JavaScript variables here. Just do counter in there, and right now we don't have a counters defined, so let's define that. We're going to use a piece of state from useState. It's going to come from React, and then within here you can just do const counter set counter is equal to use state of 0. Alright, let's I don't know why it's not reloading. Did I do something wrong? I think it's a reader. Oh, the reason it's not showing anything on the UI is because we haven't imported this one. Now let's go to app.js. Here I'm going to import counter from counter, and here I can just simply render the counter with the self-closing tag. Alright, there's our counter. Now if I do add counter, it's gonna increase the counter and show it on the h1 tag. Alright, that is cool. Now let's add a few CSS as well. It's not going to be fancy, but I'm just going to do class name equals to counter container. Now I'm going to copy this. Here I'm going to import a CSS file. It's going to come from /counter.css. We don't have that file yet, so let's go and create one. .css, and since we copied that class name, just let's take that one and do background color of sky blue. Let's see, is it even making a change? Hold on. Counter.css. Let's restart the server. Alright, there you go. So now we see the CSS changes as well here. Now let's start working on the module federation. And so what we want to do is, let's say we are the header team, right? We want to send our application to single page applications team so that they can start using it, because what they've been wanting to do was they are trying to get the header right underneath this text over here, but they don't want to build it by themselves, because we already worked on this one, right? Because we have spent a bunch of resources building this, so why not reuse this one? So what they decided to do was, all right, within our team meetings we decided, all right, we're going to use a module federation to share the resources between us, and the only job from the header team is to make sure these are exposed so that SPA team can pull it. In order to do so, what you need to do is I would recommend, whenever you're creating these apps, go and explore the webpack config files. All of the other config is pretty similar, except the difference is we are trying to pull the module federation config from the container. So by the way, you don't have to install anything to get the module federation. If you just have webpack 5, it's good enough. You can just import this module federation config. And if we search for this term, module federation config, on the webpack config file, by the way, we are still looking at the headers webpack config file, where we are trying to send that over to single page application file. Okay, all of the further configs, there is a field called name, where you will define the name of the app, and there is a file name, which is going to be the remote entry.js. So if I go here and do / remote entry.js, right now it says cannot get, but once we add the exposes section over here, because let's say there are two fields, right? There is one exposes field, one is remotes field. Right now we're trying to send some of the components. That's why we are interested on exposes object. Let's say if we are interested on pulling something from the other resources, we would we would be interested in remotes, which would be a single page application. In this case, we will fill out the info on SPA side for the remotes. Now let's go ahead and expose our component. So we're gonna do /counter, and we should provide the path. So it's in /counter. Oops, it should be comma at the end. Oh, it should be not /counter. It should be /source/counter. Okay, I think that should be a good bet. Now, since we updated our webpack config file, we need to restart the server. All right. Our app is worse as expected, but now let's see if it generated that remote entry file. All right, looks like it did. So the reason why I stressed out about this remote entry file is because this is really helpful whenever we are this is the file that is responsible to provide the resources to SPA. So now, once we have this remote entry file, all we need to do is copy this code, copy this URL, go to the config on SPA, go to webpack config. As I mentioned earlier, I told you guys, since we are trying to pull the resources from other places, we'll go to SPA and fill out the remotes, right? So because remotes are basically the small apps where they will spit out the resources. I'm gonna go here, and from the header UI we named our app as header UI, so let's grab that and put it over there, and inside the codes I would do name of the app and @ and copy the URL for the remote entry file. There, paste it right there. Now let's see if I run the single page application again. Let's run that. All right, so there's no change at all. But now let's because we haven't here, we exposed this so that our SPA can consume it. But when we come to SPA, it looks like it's not doing anything at all. Let's inspect it. Let's see if we see any thing on the network over here. All right, there is nothing interesting going on here. But let's do one thing now. Let's see, maybe we are able to consume it, but we are not doing it yet. So maybe that's why it's not doing anything. So what I would do is go to the directory where you want to use that exposed component, which would be in this case on app.js file, app.jsx. So I would just use the import, and I export it as a counter. I would do import counter from. While using the import statement, the first thing is the name of the app. Let's go to header. So the name of the app is header underscore UI. I'm gonna copy that slash, and the other thing is what did you provide it after the slash whenever you use that exposed. And go back here. Let's do that. All right. Our app works as expected till now. Now I will try to render that. You see, all of a sudden, like a magic, we are able to get that counter from this app. And if I go here, let me get rid of this remote entry. If I go here, this works. This still works as expected. But now, if I come here, I'm able to use that one just fine. If I refresh this, and just to make sure it works, like a real time, what I'll do now is I'll go to counter.css. Now instead of sky blue color, I'm going to do yellow. All right. If I refresh the SPA, as you can see, I have a yellow color, and I don't have the code, the business logic for all of this component on my single page application file at all. I just took the reference from the remote entry file that header UI generated, and I'm just basically consuming it, and it's it's that simple. Now let's see, can you have multiple remotes? Because right now this single page application has only one remote, right, which is header-ui. Can it have multiple remotes? And the answer to that is yes. So I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to use the same command again, create mf app. Now I'm going to pick the name as footer underscore UI. So they are the footer team. They're going to work on the footer. And go to application, port number, it's going to be, we use 3001, 3000, so let's do 3002. It's going to be React, JavaScript, CSS, cd footer underscore UI, and do npmi, so that it installs the node modules. And so there is the footer file. While we wait on that one, let's create a file called new footer.csx, and I'm going to use RAFCE. Now I'm just going to say here, I'm going to add h1 tag. This is from footer team. Alright, now I'm going to do git init here as well, and do npm run start live. Before we even do that, let's go to webpack config file and do the same thing as what we did for header. I'm gonna go to exposes. Then the first value is what I will call it, like whenever I'm trying to import in other places, I'm just gonna say footer. And the second value is the path, which is going to be /source/footer. Alright, so now that is done, I think we're done with the webpack config file for the footer UI as well. I'm gonna run that and go to app.csx. Let's get rid of this 3 divs and import that footer from here. Import footer from footer. Let's copy that, come here, paste that in there. It's going to be a self-closing tag. So alright, why it's not reloading? Okay, this is from the footer team. Okay, we have like really ugly footer right there. So now we have a header team right here. They did the header part. Here's the single page application. Right now it only has reference to header. Now we are trying to send this footer to this single page application team so that they can use it. So now we can come here, copy the URL, and go to spa, go to webpack config. And now on the remote section, right, so far we only have the header underscore UI as a remote. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add one more remote, which in this case would be footer. Let's see if I can pull the webpack config for footer so that I can see the name, file name, or the app name. Let's copy that, go to webpack config, it's like that. I'm just gonna paste that in there, add, and copy the URL. There you go. Now we're gonna have to restart the server because we made a webpack config changes. We still have the body. Now what I want to do is I want to import the footer. I'm going to go to app.jsx. Now I'm going to import footer from. So the footer lies on footer UI. So footer underscore UI slash, I think I named it as footer. And I'm just going to copy this, come here, and try to render it. And now let's see. Okay, what is the issue? Did I restart the server? Because most of the times if it doesn't work, then it might be your import. Okay, footer doesn't exist. So did we restart footer or not? That's the main thing. Let's try it again. Okay, it's still saying it then. Maybe we might have messed up our Spark config. Footer underscore UI 3002. Oh, we didn't add the remote entry. Remote entry.js. Okay, that's good to know. Now let's start the spa again. Let's close this one. Let's come back here. As you can see, now we see the changes from the footer team as well. So on this application, on single page application, we just did this part. So this portion came from the different team. This portion came from the different team, just to make sure, like if we are using two different like imports, or like we're consuming two different modules, just to show you guys it works like seamlessly. Now, not on footer UI. I want to go to footer UI and footer.js, footer team. This is from footer team. They just updated their code just to see, like if it works. Yep, it works real time. Okay, that's the benefit of using ModuleFederation. Obviously, it has its own, like disadvantages too. Like as we are seeing the changes on the fly. Over the wire, like let's say if someone messes up from your team, let's say from their footer team, they introduce some bugs, it's just going to go to your app directly, because we don't use any sort of versioning system. But I believe like this is a really cool concept that comes from Webpack. If you're using Webpack 5, you can just start using out of the box and like just experiment with it. And there are really like great companies opting into this plugin, and they are using like building MicroFrontEnds from this. And it doesn't like just rely on components itself. You can do like various things. You can share resources. Like you can even like share the stores, global stores, so that all of your applications can have seamless data connection. This is just the interface to like connect all of those. I think from this video you might have like clear idea, or like some sort of idea on how ModuleFederation works. So give it a try on your app, and let me know in the comments like what do you guys think about this concept. Maybe I'll do like on the future videos how we can like share the state or global state between the different apps. Yeah, that would be like really cool concept for the video. Yeah, just let me know in the comments like if you want to look into it, or if you want to have some sort of guidance on the ModuleFederation plugin. I would be more than happy to create a video for that one. If you guys enjoy the content on the channel, please give it a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel. It just takes 2 seconds, so I would really appreciate it if you could do that. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.